Imagine growing up in ancient Egypt. Religion was a huge part of your life. From how you lived your life, who your leader was, where you could go, and what you learned, and even life after death. Today on Fast Track Through History, we're going to take a quick look at There are many things surrounding ancient Egyptian religions, but it all revolved around their gods. Ancient Egyptians had a god for almost everything. Different towns worship many different gods. This may depend on what you're known for producing, trading, or what natural resources are available for success. The most important god was Amun-Ra, the sun god. Amun was part of a triad with Ta and Re, or as a single god, of whom all other gods were just manifestations. In 950 BCE, Amun evolved into a universal god who intervened through oracles in many affairs of state. One of the pharaoh's major jobs was to take care of the gods and act as a representative god on earth. The role of the priest was pretty important in Egyptian society. The Egyptians believed the gods lived in the temples. Only the priest was allowed to enter the sacred area of the temple and approach the statue representing the god or goddess. The people could pray at the gate or in the court to the pharaoh, who acted as a kind of a go-between. So priests had certain requirements to meet when they were on duty. They were only allowed to wear linens or clothing made of plants. They were required to shave their heads and bodies daily. And cold water baths, those were taken several times a day. Abydos, considered one of the most important archaeological sites in Egypt. The sacred city of Abydos was the site of many ancient temples. Among the tombs are Osiris, Seti I, and Ramses II. Mummification was a way to prepare the dead for their journey to the afterlife, and afterlife was the goal. To prepare the body and complete mummification, the body would go through 3 steps. Step number 1, the place of washing, which was also called Ibu. These steps clean the body with water and a kind of salt called natron. Step number 2, pernefer, or the house of mummification. In here they would take a hot piece of iron to draw out the brains through the nose. The heart, along with most internal organs, are collected in jars and kept. The brain and some other internal organs, well, they're tossed. The body is stuffed and covered with natron, a kind of salt, and left to dry for 40 days. We finally get to wabe, or the house of purification. They rub the skin with oils to restore softness. The body is wrapped. A painter paints a mummy mask in the likeness of the deceased. It took an average of 70 days from start to finish. Well, unless you were poor. Then you could go through the economic option, which is a 7-day process. Think of drive-through weddings and fast food.
The afterlife journey had many tasks. Egyptians believed that they are made up of 3 spirits. Ba, the personality. Ka, the spirit stuck in the tomb that needed to survive.
Hence the food and other items placed by the priests.
And Og, the immortal spirit. When a person died, their spirit went into the underworld. After a long journey, they arrive at the labyrinth of gates and doors.
The gatekeeper and magical doors would test your spirit. If you could not tell them their name...
What's my name?
Ah!
If you could not tell them their name, they would haunt your own grave and you would wander the desert for eternity. So what did the living Egyptians do? Well, they made a cheat sheet. See, they buried names and spells and all kinds of information in jars with them when they died. So, if they succeeded, they would move on to the Hall of Judgment. There, before 42 gods, the spirit declared their innocence.
They addressed the gods individually. Now, this must have been a pretty nervous experience. See, the gods had the craziest names. Names like Bone Breaker, or, ooh, this is a good one, Blood Eater, or Fiery Eyes, or Hot Foot, or Pale One. Although he probably doesn't sound all that scary compared to the other ones. Anyway, it's like an episode of Grimm. Ah!
If this all went well, then you would move on to one final test. Whew.
Anubis would place your heart on a scale. Let me say that again. Anubis would place your heart on a scale. And then on the other side, he would place a feather. Would your heart be heavy with sin, or would it balance with truth and justice? So if you failed, you faced a monster called the Eater of the Dead. Anubis would feed him your heart. Yes, feed him your heart. Without a heart, you were doomed. And it was just I don't even know what to say.
But if you succeeded, then bring on the field of reeds. Field of reeds. Egyptians believed that 3 spirits needed the whole body to live in the field of reeds. This is why the living did everything they could to preserve the dead body. Early on, pharaohs were the only ones that could get into the field of reeds, which was also called Ara. It was a place that provided food and the needs of the spirit. But on comes the Middle Kingdom. And at this point, it brought the ability for all to attain the field of reeds. And all these spells, names, cheat sheets, they were all, instead of putting in jars and tombs, they were written on the sides of coffins. It's clear why religion was so important to the Egyptians, important to their future and their eternal future. So, thank you for taking some time here today at Fast Track Through History.